Section 43 of Essays on Art. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Max Reichlich. Essays on Art by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Translated by Samuel Gray Ward. Section 43. Hints to Young Artists. Section 1. The dilettante, when he has done all he can, excuses his work by saying it is not yet finished. In fact, it never can be finished, because it was not properly begun. The master, with a few strokes, gives to his work an air of finish. Finished or not, it is complete at every stage. The cleverest dilettante feels his way amid uncertainty, and with each step of progress of the work, the insecurity of the foundation becomes more and more apparent. At the end, too late to correct it, the error first becomes evident, and thus the work is in fact not susceptible of finish. In true art there are no preparatory schools, though there must be preparation, of which the best means is to have even the lowest scholar take part in the work of the master. Color grinding has been the first step of many excellent artists. Another is the spirit of imitation, towards which the natural common activity of man is turned through the influence of some talented artist who performs the difficult with facility. Section 2. Let the young artist frequent the dances of the peasants, on Sundays and holidays, mark their natural motions, giving the girls the garments of nymphs, and the boors the ears, or the goat's feet of satyrs. When he has learned to seize nature correctly, and give to the forms a nobler and freer carriage, all will be at a loss to know where he found it, and be ready to swear it was drawn from the antique. Moreover, when he meets with rope dancers and circus riders, let him not neglect to observe them carefully. Avoiding what is exaggerated, false, or mechanical, he may learn the infinity of graceful positions the human body is capable of. Neither let him neglect the forms of beasts, but learn to form a general idea of horses and dogs, and turn his attention also to wild and foreign animals. Section 3. Of necessity, the imitative artist must make studies after nature, with the value of which, in general, we are sufficiently impressed. But we will not deny that we are often vexed when we see the misuse to which such praiseworthy efforts are liable. It is our conviction that the young artist should make few, if any, studies from nature, without thinking at the same time how each piece might be rounded into a whole, how he might make this object, changed into an agreeable picture, and enclosed in a frame, produce a pleasing impression upon the connoisseur and the lover of art. Many beauties stand isolated in the world. To discover modes of bringing them together, and thus produce works of art, this is the office of the mind. The flower derives a charm from the insect that rests on it, the drops of dew that moisten it, the vase from which it draws its last nourishment. There is no bush, no tree, to which the neighborhood of a rock or a spring does not impart significance, or which does not borrow an added charm from a simple, appropriate distance. The same holds of human forms and beasts of all sorts. The advantages the young artist will derive from this courage will be manifold. He learns to think, to unite things that go well together, and if he continues in this way to compose thoughtfully, he cannot fail to arrive at last at what is called invention, the development of the manifold out of the special. If by this means he satisfies the demands of a true artistic training, he gains moreover the advantage, which is by no means to be despised, of producing agreeable and charming designs that connoisseurs will eagerly purchase. Works of this sort do not require to be carried out and finished in the highest degree. When they show a clear eye, a good perception and execution, they are often more pleasing to the amateur than greater and more finished works. Let the young artist keep his studies for examination, in books and portfolios, and reflect upon all those he has by the above method succeeded in making interesting or valuable. We are not now speaking of the higher, of which we might also speak, but what we say is by way of admonition to turn back the learner from a wrong path and referring at the same time to the higher. Let the artist but pursue this method for half a year, practically, and use neither charcoal nor brush without the intention of making into a picture the present natural scene. If he has native talent, it will soon display itself, which is the object we wish to forward by these hints. Section 4. When I have asked young German painters, especially those who have passed some time in Italy, why they exhibit to the eye such a disagreeably bright tone, and seem to shun all harmony, they have answered, with complacency and confidence, that was precisely the way nature appeared to them. Kant has made us aware that there is a criticism of reason, that there was ground for keeping watch over this highest power that man is possessed of. What advantage has been derived from this, we may each have proved in his own experience. In the same sense, I would advance the proposition that a criticism of sense is necessary, if art generally, and particularly German art, is to raise itself again, and advance with a cheerful and lifelike step. The man who is born to the possession of reason is not independent of farther culture, which he may receive from the care of friends and instructors, through quiet example of others, or harsh experience of his own. In the same way the artist is born, progressive but not complete. He may bring a fresh eye to the world, may have a happy conception of form, proportion, movement. But in regard to higher composition, keeping, light, shade, color, his natural talents may be insufficient, without his being aware of it. If therefore he feels no inclination to learn, from the complete artists of the past and present time, that which he is in want of to become a proper artist, he will fall short of his own powers, in the false idea of guarding his originality. For not only all that is born with us, but also all that we are able to inherit, belongs to and is a part of us.
End of section 43.
Section 44 of Essays on Art by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Shreya Sethi. Essays on Art by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Translated by Samuel Gray Ward. Section 44. Upon Dilettantism, Part 1. Upon dilettantism or practical amateurship in the arts. Note to the essay on dilettantism. In giving the transition of this singular work, it seems desirable to say a few words by way of presenting it to the reader in the right point of view. It may be said that in this country we have nothing of that widespread dilettantism that forms so remarkable a feature in European civilization, and that, whether it be good or evil, we are too busy a people to anticipate its having any deep hold among us. But whoever reads with attention this masterly shorthand analysis of the clear-sighted German will be surprised to find that the subject has the strongest possible bearing on our present condition, and that in fact, with rare exceptions, all our art, all our literature falls inevitably within his definition of dilettantism. It was the belief of our author, and though opposed to the common belief, it is worthy of deep consideration that what we call genius may and does appear in any age, but that the most fortunate conjunction of circumstances conducive to the development of such genius is required to educate the great artist, the great poet. From this belief naturally follows in the second place that it is of immense importance that the artist should take hold of art by the right side. This true side is distinguished as art, in opposition to the false side, which is dilettantism. Now, in our country, every tendency is opposed to a true artistic culture. Yet there is an intense thirst for the gratification that all men derive from works of art, and this demand our so-called artists and poets supply after their fashion. But true art springs not from an outward demand of the public, but from an inward demand in the soul of the artist. This essay may be defined as an inquiry concerning the true and false point of art, and with a degree of fullness, of knowledge, of sharpness and refinement of view, that perhaps no one but Goethe ever combined. It is carried into every art, even gardening and dancing, which as fine arts we are so little acquainted with, are not omitted. At the same time, it must be admitted that an almost algebraic brevity of statement prevails, and that it is a work to be studied rather than read. If the reader do not at first discover its drift, we would only suggest that whatever other question is made concerning Goethe, no one doubts his infinite critical acumen, that in his circumstances there was a remarkable analogy with that of every artist or literary man who is born in a period of false direction in art, and that therefore, if there be an appearance of obscurity, there is always a strong probability that a more careful study will elicit a meaning that will repay the effort. Introductory and General. The Italians call every artist maestro. When they see one who practices an art without making a profession of it, they say, "See the letter." Their expression of polite amusement and wonder shows their thoughts on the subject. The word dilettante is not found in Old Italian. It is found in no dictionary, not even the Cruscan. It is only found in Jageman. According to him, it means a lover of art who is not satisfied with viewing and enjoying it, but would also practice it. Crazes in ancient times. Crazes after the revival of the arts, widely extended in late times. Cause thereof, the practice of art made a requisite in education. In speaking of dilettantes, we accept the case of one born with a real talent for art, but prevented by circumstances from receiving an artistic cultivation. We speak only of those who, without any particular talent for this or that art, only give way to the natural imitative tendency in them. Upon the German word Fuschen, to botch. Its derivation refers to handicraft. Handicraft expresses that a certain dexterity has been acquired according to rule, and is practiced in the exactest fashion after the prescription and under the protection of law. Institution of guilds Innungen, especially in Germany. The various nations have no proper word thereof. Idea expressed by the term. The dilettante holds the same relation to the artist that the botcher does to the craftsman. It may be maintained of art that it is in like manner learned according to rules and practiced according to law, only that its rules are not, like those of a handicraft, everywhere recognized, and the laws of the so-called free arts are spiritual and not civil. Derivation of botchwork, futuri, advantage, genealogy of dilettantism, dilettante honored, artist neglected. Cause. Certainty of a widely extended enjoyment of life is commonly the basis of all empirical estimation. We have taken such certainty maxims into our morale without being aware of it. Birth, valor, riches. One sort of possession ensures outward enjoyment. Genius and talent have an inward certainty, but in their outward relation are peculiarly uncertain. They are not always in harmony with the conditions and wants of the time. In barbarous times, they were prized as something wonderful. They are not certain of applause, which must be secured by begging or flattering. On which account, those artists are worst off who must in person court the applause of the moment. Rhapsodists, players, musicians. With rare exceptions, artists live in a sort of voluntary poverty. It was oblivious in all times that the condition of the artist had in it something desirable and invisible, and enviable. Origin of dilettantism. General prevalence, I will not say of a high regard for the arts, but of its mixture with civil existence, and a sort of legitimization of the same. End of section 44. Recording by Shreya Sethi.